This evening, first, seeking justice. The families of 11 children who died in the Mahdia dormitory fire are taking the state to court, filing a massive $16.5 billion lawsuit. Why they say their children were trapped and their rights violated. Plus, showdown at City Hall. The Minister of Local Government slams Georgetown's City Council for an unlawful tax waiver plan. Could legal action be next? Also, major upgrades coming to the Essequibo Coast. President Irfaan Ali announces a 4-lane highway and billions in infrastructure investments aimed at transforming the region's economy and tourism. Meanwhile, strong words from Washington. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warns Venezuela any attack on Guyana's territory or offshore assets would be a very bad day for the Maduro regime. Finally, former President Jair Bolsonaro is heading to trial, accused of orchestrating an attempted coup after losing the 2022 elections. Stay tuned, these stories and more tonight on Headline News Update. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for March 27, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, during a visit to Guyana today, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a stern warning to Venezuela, stating that any military action against Guyana or its offshore ExxonMobil assets would result in serious consequences. Addressing a press conference alongside Guyanese President Irfaan Ali, Rubio declared it would be a very bad day for Venezuela regime if such an attack were to occur, stressing that any such actions would be a mistake for Venezuela.
Very bad day for the Venezuelan regime if they were to attack Guyana or attack ExxonMobil or anything like it. It would be a very bad day, a very bad week for them, and it would not end well for them. I'm not going to get into details of what we'll do. We're not big on those kinds of threats. I think everybody understands, and I want it to be clear. We've made this clear repeatedly. I think the U.S. Navy today is making it clear and demonstrating our ability to we have a big Navy, and it can get almost anywhere. It can get anywhere in the world, and we have commitments that exist today with Guyana. We want to build on those, expand on those, and we'll leave it for the appropriate time. But suffice it to say that if that regime were to do something such as that, it would be a very bad move. It would be a big mistake for them.
The U.S. Secretary of State emphasized a strong partnership between the U.S. and Guyana, reaffirming America's commitment to standing by Guyana in the face of Venezuelan territorial claims. This military cooperation follows recent Venezuelan provocations, including the March 1, 2025 incursion by a Venezuelan naval vessel into Guyana's waters, where it questioned ExxonMobil vessels operating offshore. The warning from Rubio follows heightened tension over the disputed Essequibo region, with Guyana's case against Venezuela currently before the International Court of Justice. Rubio reiterated the U.S.'s support for Guyana's territorial integrity and the 1899 Arbitral Tribunal Land Boundary Award, which Venezuela disputes. In addition to the military support, the U.S. and Guyana signed a memorandum of understanding focused on security, trade, and related matters, underscoring their strengthened bilateral relations.
The basic element of progress and transformation and prosperity is always security. So number one, we want to make sure that some of the tragic regional problems that exist with crime, transnational crime, we have a huge problem in the world right now with organized gangs and narco traffickers that destabilize societies. We want to make sure that never reaches here. And that's why today's MOU and the work we'll do together is designed not to stop it, but to prevent it from ever taking root, from ever finding its way here. Because unfortunately, sometimes crime is attracted by prosperity and targets prosperity. And the other are regional threats. The regional threats based on illegitimate territorial claims by a narco-trafficking regime. And I want to be frank, and I've said this during my time as a senator, and I have full confidence in saying it now as the Secretary of State. There will be consequences for adventurism. There will be consequences for aggressive actions. And that's why our partnership in that regard will be important. That is not what we want to be a feature of our relationship, but it is a necessity of our relationship because you have a very difficult challenge on your hands with a dictator that's making illegitimate territorial claims. And so you have our full commitment and support. Today we're demonstrating it both in tangible ways And we're going to look for ways to make it long-term and sustainable ways, to make abundantly clear that we are invested, both as a nation and from our people, in being your partner in transformation and in prosperity. And we will not allow illegitimate territorial claims to be an impediment to your dreams and to your right to develop this country into a symbol that I hope will inspire others to follow the example you set, Mr. President.
Rubio made the state visit to Jamaica and Guyana and has moved on to visit Suriname before heading back to the U.S. On a different note, the families of 11 children who tragically lost their lives in the 2023 Mahdia school dormitory fire have filed a $16.5 billion lawsuit against the state, alleging negligence and human rights violations. In the legal document, the families, represented by attorney Darren Wade, argued that the state breached its duty of care by failing to implement proper safety measures, including fire extinguishers and an evacuation plan. The claimants further asserted that the children were unlawfully confined behind locked grills, preventing their escape when the fire broke out, which they say amounts to torture and violation of their fundamental rights. The lawsuit seeks $500 million in damages for each child who died, along with aggravated and exemplary damages, citing emotional distress and the need to deter further negligence by the state. The families contended that the state had a responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of the children while in its care, but failed to address fire hazards despite warnings from the fire service months before the tragedy. The dormitory was locked with no emergency exits, trapping the children inside. The lawsuit also challenges a settlement agreement signed by the families, which provided $5 million per victim, claiming they did so under duress and without legal advice. The families argued that the agreement has no legal effect. The case continues to unfold as the grieving families seek justice for their lost loved ones. In other news, Minister of Local Government and Regional Development Sonny Parag has issued a formal warning to the Georgetown Mayor and City Council regarding their attempt to waive interest on outstanding rates and taxes owed by property owners in the city. In a letter dated March 26, the minister instructed Mayor Alfred Mentor to immediately cease and desist from implementing the unlawful and unauthorized financial regulations. The APNU and AFC-aligned councillors within the Georgetown Mayor and City Council had supported the decision to implement the waiver. However, Minister Parag clarified that the council has no legal authority to make such decisions. According to the minister, the Municipal and District Councils Act grants the power to establish financial regulations solely to the minister. She noted that the Act clearly states that only the minister can make financial regulations concerning the management of council's financial matters, including accounting, borrowing, and revenue collection. Moreover, the minister pointed out that any new regulations must be published in the official gazette, a procedure the council had not followed. The minister also referenced a 2022 High Court ruling which emphasized that statutory limits bind local democratic organs and cannot act autonomously in such matters. Parag warned that if the Georgetown Mayor and City Council proceeds with its actions, legal action will be taken, including civil proceedings, to recover any such unlawful waive, and a report will be made to the police for further investigation. In February, the City Council also urged business owners to contact the mayor to settle outstanding debts, which Vice President Bar Jaglio cautioned could lead to corruption due to inconsistent payment amounts. Stick around when we return. President Ali announces 4-lane highway and major development plans for Essequibo Coast, and Wisma man charged with assaulting wife and child abuse.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Hurry Smalls make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Welcome back. Kester Johnson, a 26-year-old construction worker from Wisma Linden, has been charged with assaulting his wife, Sweetie Bob, on Sunday, March 23rd. Johnson appeared before Magistrate Rochelle Liverpool at the Linden Magistrates Court, where he pleaded not guilty to the charges earlier today. He was remanded to prison, and his trial is set for April 23, 2025. In addition to the assault charge, Johnson is also under investigation for child abuse. The case involves his 1-year-old child with Bob, who was allegedly ill-treated on March 22nd. Police are reviewing a video of the incident in which a child is seen hanging from a bedsheet, a video reportedly made by Johnson and sent to Bob. The incident follows a pattern of violence between Johnson and Bob, with earlier reports of physical altercation dating back to February 2025. On March 22nd, Bob had reported the abuse at the Wisma police station, but did not provide a written statement. Following a subsequent investigation, the video of the child was retrieved and Johnson was arrested. The toddler had been medically examined. However, the authorities found no visible marks of abuse. Investigations into both the assault and child abuse charges are ongoing. On a different note, President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali has announced plans to upgrade Essequibo Coast main thoroughfare to a 4-lane highway as part of a broader infrastructure development initiative for Region 2. The announcement was made on Wednesday during the commissioning of the new $447 million Deeds and Commercial Registries Authority building.
When we built this highway, we never expected such fast and rapid growth in the traffic here in Region 2. So whilst in this 5 years we focused heavily on community roads and community infrastructure, one of the plans and programs that we have that will commence before the end of this year is the design and rebuilding of this highway into a 4-lane highway here in Essequibo.
The president stated that the highway's design will be finalized by the end of the year to address the increasing traffic demands in the region. This initiative follows the government's focus over the past 5 years on enhancing community roads and infrastructure. In addition to the highway, President Ali highlighted other developments in the region, including a new ferry service and support for rice farmers to diversify into high-value crop cultivation.
We are actively working to procure an additional fast ferry that will do the Parika to Essequibo route. That is ongoing. For rice farmers, I have asked ICA and the Ministry of Agriculture to work on developing with you complementary high-value crops that will support your rice farming, so that with your rice farming, there will be complementary high-value crops that bring additional income, disposable income, and what I call buffer income to your pockets and your family's pockets.
The president said these efforts are designed to boost local agriculture, with plans for a modern port at Charity to facilitate direct trade with the Caribbean and beyond. The development will also include cold storage and agro-processing facilities to support farmers in Essequibo and Pomeroon. The coconut industry in Region 2 will also see expansion alongside improvements to drainage and irrigation systems. To further reduce farming costs, the government is exploring the use of commercial drones to apply fertilizers and chemicals. The president said many positive changes are in place for the Essequibo region.
I've directed the Minister of Health and Minister of Education, but the Ministry of Health would have already started. The nursing program, the registered nursing program, you have about 200 students on that program here. The nursing assistant program, we have about 100 students on that program. But I've asked them, within the next 8 months or before, to operationalize university education here in Guyana through the Guyana Digital School, so our young people can have access right here in Essequibo to degrees and diplomas in pharmacy. And these are the areas we've identified. Degrees and diplomas in pharmacy, tourism and hospitality, agriculture science, dentistry, civil, electrical, and mechanical engineering. Those are the areas we have identified that within 9 months, the children here, whether we have to build a lab facility, we will build a lab facility.
On the tourism front, the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce will launch a special marketing plan to boost the region's growing hospitality sector. The president emphasized that over $100 billion has been invested in the Pomeroon Supernam region since 2020, spanning health, education, sports, and infrastructure sectors. Notably, ongoing projects include a $6.6 billion modern hospital in Lima and a state-of-the-art stadium in China. In other news, residents of Blue Creek Suicide Linden Highway are celebrating after receiving over 60 solar panel systems to improve electricity access in their community. For years, villagers struggled with basic tasks like charging their phones, often walking long distance and paying fees to do so. The initiative, led by Minister Kwame McCoy, is part of the government's ongoing effort to provide reliable electricity to communities not yet connected to the national grid. Each household receives a solar photovoltaic system, including a 160-megawatt panel, charge controller, desk fan, and USB port. Residents welcome the initiative, calling it a long overdue improvement that will enhance their daily lives and safety. Minister McCoy emphasized the government's commitment to equitable electricity access, noting that this second phase of distribution will provide 7,000 more panels nationwide. In addition to electricity upgrades, the government is also improving infrastructure along the highway with a $161 million road construction project and the installation of 2,000 streetlights to enhance road safety. Don't go away after the break. Brazil's Supreme Court orders Bolsonaro to stand trial for alleged coup attempt, and U.S. to review Jamaica travel advisory amid Caribbean tour.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
See clearly with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. In the Caribbean, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has pledged to review the current travel advisory for Jamaica, which urges Americans to reconsider visits due to crime. During his Caribbean tour, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomed the move and also defended the Cuban medical aid program, which the U.S. has criticized. Rubio acknowledged that Jamaica may be upholding labor standards and expressed willingness to continue dialogue on the issue. Meanwhile, in South America, Brazil's Supreme Court has ruled that former President Jair Bolsonaro must stand trial for allegedly orchestrating an attempted coup in 2023. Bolsonaro, who lost the 2022 elections to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, is accused of supporting efforts to overturn the results and cling to power. Al Jazeera's Teresa Bo reports.
On January 2023, just 1 week after Brazil's President Lula da Silva was sworn in, thousands of supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed the National Congress, the Supreme Court, and other buildings in Brazil's capital, Brasilia. They were asking the military to intervene and prevent President Lula from taking office. Now, a 5-member panel of the Supreme Court has said there is enough evidence for Bolsonaro to stand trial for his alleged role in what Brazil's highest court said was an attempted coup.
There is therefore no doubt that the prosecutor's office pointed out more than sufficient elements, reasonable and sufficient indications of authorship and just cause for receiving the complaint against Jair Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro and 7 others have been charged with several crimes, including an alleged attempt to abolish the democratic rule of law and a coup d'etat. Bolsonaro has always denied any wrongdoing. He attended the Supreme Court session on Tuesday, and he described Wednesday's ruling as a personal attack.
I hope to put an end to this today. It seems like there is something personal against me. The accusations are very serious. They are unfounded.
Bolsonaro has never acknowledged his defeat in the elections of 2022 and insists he will run for office again next year. Even though a ruling by the Superior Electoral Court has barred him from running for public office until 2030. The trial is set to begin later this year and is likely to polarize Brazil even more. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera.
The U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security is visiting the high-security prison in El Salvador that's housing Venezuelan migrants recently deported by the Trump administration. The deported migrants are accused of being members of a gang which Trump has labeled a terrorist group. Al Jazeera's Latin American editor Lucia Newman reports.
U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem tours El Salvador's Terrorism Confinement Center, the largest prison facility in the Americas, widely referred to as Hell on Earth. It's where the U.S. government sent 238 Venezuelan immigrants nearly 2 weeks ago, alleging they belonged to the criminal gang Tren de Aragua. Many were sent to El Salvador without trial or criminal charges of any kind, to this prison where they have zero contact with the outside world, including lawyers and family. COAM signed a memorandum to continue sending alleged migrant criminals to the facility, despite widespread charges of human rights violations.
I also want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
5,500 kilometers away in Chile's capital, 26-year-old Venezuelan Natalie Sanchez is in despair. She's raising her newborn daughter alone. On March 14th, she discovered that her child's father, a musician, was one of those sent to the infamous prison.
Él tiene un tatuaje en el cuello. He has a tattoo on his neck, a hummingbird, and I recognized it when I saw it in the video of the prisoners. I compared it to the one on this video where he's singing. I realized it was him. I couldn't believe it.
6 years ago, Arturo Suarez migrated to Chile, got a steady job, and dedicated his free time to his passion for urban music, becoming fairly well known. But last September, Natalie says he went ahead to the United States, looking for better opportunities, concerned that if Donald Trump won the elections, it would be too late to migrate later. He entered the U.S. legally and worked as a gardener, sending money back to Chile, where Al Jazeera has confirmed that he had no criminal record. But in mid-February, he was detained in a raid by U.S. immigration agents, despite no clear evidence of belonging to a gang.
Arturo Suarez is not alone. Many of the others who have been locked up as gang members in El Salvador have no prior criminal records or arrest warrants, according to legal counsel. The other thing they seem to have in common is that they all sport tattoos.
Like 33-year-old Venezuelan football player Jersey Reyes, who, according to his U.S. lawyer, was detained for sporting a tattoo of the Real Madrid Football Club. Or 25-year-old Fitzgerald Cornejo, who was sent to the Salvador prison after being told he'd be deported to Venezuela. His brother says he has a rose tattoo on his neck.
That doesn't make you a criminal or a thief. Tattoos are normal.
All of them are now incommunicado, in a legal black hole, with neither the U.S. or El Salvador confirming the names of the prisoners. Natalie Sanchez says she hasn't given up hope.
I have hope that he'll return with his name cleared, that he'll soon be here to meet his daughter. I hold Donald Trump and Nayib Bukele responsible for anything that happens to him.
But so far, there's little evidence that he could be given a chance to prove his innocence. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Santiago.
Finally, U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll impose a 25% tariff on all imported cars beginning on April 2nd. Auto stock plunged earlier on Wednesday as the industry braced for Trump's announcement. Japan warned it would have a significant impact on its economic ties, Al Jazeera's John Henry reports.
Donald Trump just hit the accelerator on the auto industry's global trade war.
This is the beginning of Liberation Day in America.
The U.S. president announced new tariffs on all vehicles imported to the United States.
We'll effectively be charging a 25% tariff, but if you build your car in the United States, there is no tariff.
That is expected to add, on average, an additional $3,500 to $4,500 to each vehicle imported to the U.S. The tariffs will not apply to auto parts, saving the industry billions of dollars in North America, where multiple parts cross international borders to make a single vehicle. Some in the United Auto Workers Union say the protective tariffs might help the American manufacturing industry compete, but it's a gamble.
The Trump administration is trying to, bring back American jobs and help the auto industry, but this could also backfire with tariff wars.
Tariffs can protect critical domestic industries, but economists generally agree tariffs hurt consumers.
They're a bad thing. They raise costs around the globe unnecessarily.
Economists say tariffs and the global trade wars that ensue inevitably raise prices to consumers.
It can work over the long run, where they will bring manufacturing back to the U.S. But even in so doing, it's still going to raise costs.
American automakers fear the tariff war could put the brakes on already slowing sales.
The threat of tariffs is hitting an auto industry already reeling from low demand and rising competition.
Automakers were already laying off workers and shutting down plants. Now they're bracing for the possibility of even worse.
Even if the on-again, off-again tariffs work over the long term, they create uncertainty.
Uncertainty means you can't plan for the future. And so everyone delays investing in new capital equipment, building new factories, and so on.
Trump insists that short-term pain will lead to long-term gain. But economists note that the party that launches a war isn't necessarily the one which decides when it ends. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Detroit.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's it, TV2 Headline News for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.